What is an item you think should be free? I realize that this isn't free, and that it should be paid for, but when properly disposing of appliances or electronics is something the consumer has to pay for at the time of disposal, it results in irresponsible dumping and improper disposal. Then it costs more to clean up improperly dumped items and to address the impact of pollution than it would have cost to just have our taxes pay for publicly accessible disposal services for things like electronics and appliances. And by disposal I include scrap metal recycling and recovery of precious metals and limited resources like lithium and neutralizing and isolating toxic materials. I don't just mean another dump. In the UK we have free and paid for, although it's not usually your choice which one is located where you are at your time in need. I have negotiated both types of public bathroom. The free ones I almost always leave within 2 seconds of walking in and decide to find some nature to piss on or perhaps endure some serious stomach cramps for an hour or two. Paid ones, such as the one I went to at Liverpool Street, I rarely go to London, was actually pretty pleasant. I still walked in and out of a few stalls but it was generally a lot cleaner and smelled less of death and decay. TLDR, if your money is going to pay for plenty of staff to frequently clean the toilets, I'm more than happy to pay for a better experience. Regardless of my views on council tax and how it should be spent, just take my money and give me a clean toilet when I'm caught short. And schools seem to get off on humiliating/ostracizing a kid when they don't have lunch money. I've heard many horror stories of kids being loudly called out in the cafeteria, or having to sit in a certain chair with a sign saying they forgot their lunch money. My school did cereal for people who forgot their lunch money, which isn't terrible, but it's not a great lunch. I grew up privileged enough that I could choose whether to bring or buy my lunch and we could more than afford either option, but sometimes I'd forget to tell my mom I needed more money and it was humiliating having these grown adults shame me as a child. I can't imagine what it must be like for kids who might not have the money at home. Morally, I agree with you, but Social Security needs serious help right now. The baby boomer generation, as the name says, were a boom in babies, which drastically increased the population for a short time. It was great when they were working and paying into the system, but now they're cashing out, and there isn't enough money coming in to support what we already have for future generations. We're either going to need to cut already existing services, or increase taxes, which isn't going to happen because half the country gets a hard-on for slashing corporate tax. The SAT. Better yet, just don't have it. It's just another money barrier. SAT is literally an empty acronym. It was designed to test for scholastic aptitude, meaning that no matter what chances you were given in life, this would just test your brains. Unfortunately, the creator did it this way to weed out students of low-class families and students of color, as he believed them to naturally be of lower aptitude than wealthy white students. He also supported eugenics. The test has been changed and remodeled, but it still isn't necessary. If they really need us to take it, at least don't charge us for it. Infant formula. Breast milk is free. So the moment a baby can't be breastfed for whatever reason, that baby's survival is commodified. Formula companies have used some disgusting advertising tactics, see, Nestle, and still do in a more sneaky way since the implementation of the WHO code, and they can get away with it because there are babies who need that formula to survive and families are going to do whatever they can to provide it. I have so much more to say, but not enough time to say it because, ironically, I'm breastfeeding my own baby and she's about to need a burp. But if you're interested, I highly recommend The Politics of Breastfeeding, by Gabrielle Palmer. 911 Transports. I'm talking mainly about the US. While it should be free, for many, it's not. Actually, it's very expensive and a lot of people don't expect a bill for it when all they got is a ride. What most people don't realize is taxes alone don't cover the cost of an ambulance. If you really consider all that goes into the upkeep of an ambulance, it's understandable. People throw up all over ambulances, spatter blood, sheets, and equipment constantly has to be sanitized and replaced. So while a 911 transport should be free, I'm willing to pay if I need help because I want a modern-day ambulance. Not a vintage one from the past that has no equipment to help save my life, or better yet, a family member's life, till I or they get to the hospital. Water, parking at school or hospitals, healthcare, registration/licensing/ID of anything vital/mandatory, diapers/tampons, pads/diva cups, etc., /bathroom maintenance, toilet paper, soap/eye maintenance/dental/anything we could make for ourselves that has to be regulated like housing or food. Our taxes should subsidize all of this instead of bloated political wages, military, tax cuts and bailouts for wealthy companies, education to whatever level, ambulance rides, fucking using roads. Fuck toll booths. We could kill 2,000 people and redistribute their wealth and better billions. Or we can keep letting people die from poverty, hunger, war, and treatable illnesses that they can't afford because a couple guys having a dick measuring contest about going to space first is more important. We are the majority people. Why are we allowing irresponsible and selfish people run the world at our expense? These people would murder you and your family and friends gladly if it meant getting to hoard an extra couple millions if there was no repercussions. They are deliberately fucking up your education so you remain ignorant and compliant. Stop staking yourselves to the ground to provide them with tender veal/lamb. God damn it. Property in most countries is ultimately owned by the government. Some countries, like the US states, used to sell their land allodial, which gives the property owner sovereign ownership, but their legal systems eventually stopped recognizing that system and started using the fee simple system instead. You can't claim sovereign ownership of your land if the government no longer recognizes that right. Your property deed gives you the right to possess your land, but it doesn't give you absolute ownership of it. You still have to pay rent to the true owner, government, in the form of property taxes. Pretty much every medicine that people depend on to survive, sure put some range on it on how much they can buy per a week or day, but many people need medicine to live and it's horrid that they have to pay so much for them. Glasses when they are a necessary, like I need glasses to read text in a far distance but it's not 100% necessary for me so I'm okay with paying for them. But when it's someone who needs them to see 24/7 otherwise everything is blurry AF, can't even see their fingers. It should be free. Prosthetics. And any other equipment for people with disabilities. Life-saving surgeries. Basic food, like a package of food free so people with low income, homeless people could buy them. I'm thinking maybe a loaf of bread, bottle of water, gummy bears, for sugar intake. Sure, there would be people who would abuse this but there would be hundreds if not more people whose lives would be a bit easier. Nothing is free. Free means it's paid for collectively through taxes, like schools, firefighters, roads, police, or hospitals, depending on where you're from. This question should be what things should we collectively pay for to ensure everyone has them? To everyone suggesting things like condoms, pads or mental therapy, we should not forget that even basic things needed to stay alive, food, water, shelter, are paid for individually, not collectively. Maybe we should start with the basics. A lot of people are confused when they read things about the quality of US healthcare. The actual quality is quite good if you can afford it. There is a reason that the richest people in the world come here. I've literally treated foreign billionaires at my hospital. Whenever the US gets ranked very low on healthcare quality, it's generally to do with access. There were a couple of studies done by the Fraser Institute and Harvard which concluded that more people in Canada die from a lack of access to healthcare than in the US from a lack of insurance. Sure, why not? I think anyone who sits around every single day doing nothing but playing video games will lead a pretty unfulfilling life, Said as someone whose primary entertainment medium is video games, and I think anyone in that situation would probably have some passion they'd like to spend their time pursuing, such as going to school, starting a business, etc. But if someone's lifelong aspirations were genuinely to sit in a chair playing Xbox until they keel over, then go right ahead. Post-secondary education. We have the right to education, but what we are taught in grade school doesn't fit what we require. Who has ever needed to recite Shakespeare for a living? Only the people who go into that specific section of the arts. But we aren't taught how to do taxes, we aren't taught about the laws of the country, province/state, city, or whatever. And then we have to put ourselves into incredible amounts of debt so we have a chance at living wages later in life. Glasses. My husband's eyesight is awful, so he can't drive or hardly work without them, but his glasses broke last year and we couldn't afford to replace them, seeing as they're around $800. We had to keep them held together with glue and duct tape for basically a year until we'd saved enough money to buy new ones. If they'd have broken for good, he wouldn't have been able to drive anywhere or operate the machines he works with. And there's nothing we could have done about it. Prefacing this with the following. I am male, straight, if it matters. I'm Caucasian/white. I live in the US. I am considered middle class. I am a father. My list, in no particular order: tampons/pads, insulin, EpiPen/epinephrine, healthcare, includes glasses, handicapable support, mental health care, etc. Condom/birth control/birth prevention, education *, focus on religion-free education, sick time, US specific, cancer treatment. Basically, if you need it to live, why the F are we charging for it? If it's to help prevent unwanted birth, why are we charging for it? *, maybe pitch long-term male and female BC, and offer condom/etc. As a second, if it's a natural bodily function/allergy/condition, why do we charge for products, period care, insulin, epinephrine, etc.? Jury duty. I don't need paid for profit, but I need my job to cover me and not pay for parking/transport. So much rule-making shit is set up to be easiest accessed by retirees and stay-at-home spouses with older kids in school or child care. Agnes and Harold get to decide to push the issue for parking meters because Jessica and Matt are at work or taking care of their kids and home. Bertha and Carl decide the date of some 21-year-old while his peers are hustling a job, school, and family. Period stuff and glasses. My lenses cost hundreds of dollars, plus there's the actual frame. It physically pains me to not wear glasses and I need them to drive. I don't live in a country with non-free healthcare. Why does such a common thing cost so much? Or at least doesn't count as healthcare? I know they are expensive to make or whatever, but they can afford other less important stuff, but not free glasses? At least the lenses. Water, I mean, come on, why in the USA where we have so many welfare programs is it so hard to find a water fountain, and when you do find one it always just comes out in a trickle and usually impossible to fill a bottle with? I know that there is good money in selling bottles of water, but why can't there be more public water fountains? This is why my dad taught us to carry a canteen everywhere with more water in the car. Nothing should be free. No such thing as a free lunch. Anything free or subsidized received is merely stolen money that was had by armed robbery, perpetrated by the government on the behalf of the people who voted for them. Only things that should be free are enumerated in the Bill of Rights. Free speech, freedom to worship who and however you like, freedom to keep/bear whatever arms the modern infantry soldier has access to, etc. However, since 1934 the government has found a way to tax the Second Amendment. To the tune of $200 tax on a $2 suppressor, or a $20 shotgun. Mind you, these are our rights, not privileges. U.S. Constitution guarantees the freedoms of life, to all living, preborn or born, black or white, male or female, liberty, freedom from government control or coercion, and the pursuit of happiness, not happiness, but the ability to pursue it. Saying things should be free, like healthcare or education, or medication, is to say that we should have the government commit armed robbery of other citizens on our behalf to force them to pay for something that I want. Don't think the government will kill you over taxes. Don't forget 76 men, women, and children were burned alive by tax agents in 1993 over a supposed $200 tax issue in Waco, Texas. Or the Weaver family was gunned down by federal tax agents over the same $200 tax discrepancy. Try not paying your taxes and see what happens. They will come for your house. If you say you won't leave, they will bring guns to force you, or kill you, your family, and your dog. No such thing as a free lunch. So I actually had an idea where instead of being given the ability to enroll in Social Security or Medicare, the government purchases a whole life insurance policy for you. The only thing you wouldn't be allowed to do is surrender it for the cash payout. Otherwise, you can access the cash value for college or buying other thing, turn it into an annuity for retirement, or pass on some kind of legacy. This would theoretically cut down on tax bills needed to pay for existing programs massively and could lead to better outcomes for low-income and low-net-worth individuals or families that typically don't buy this kind of thing due to budget concerns. Healthcare. Always healthcare. I am risking my spine and my mental health because I don't make enough to go to the doctors I need, and the government says I make too much to get help. Eventually I will need another spinal fusion, and it will only happen when the pain is too bad and I wind up at the ER. Then I can look forward to hundreds of thousands of dollars being added to my already long list of medical debts. It's hard to be sick nowadays, and so many people really need help. I also have a second theory about legal representation. Yes, I know if you go to jail you can get a massively overworked / stretched out / underpaid public defender. You can look up the statistics on that. What happens when I need a family lawyer and I cannot afford $300 an hour? Call pro bono lawyers. They only work with those who have no housing, no income, and some kind of record. They can put you on the others list, but ETA like 120,000 pages long and you'll more than likely never hear from anybody. We are bound by laws. We have to abide laws. There are courts for arguing laws and defending laws. If I have a problem for the law to handle, why do I not have easy access to let it be heard? Even if I somehow thought I had the knowledge, it's not even possible for me to make an appointment with a judge because I have something I need someone to do something about. I don't know. Rant over. A basic and simple life. In the form of a complete line of basic items that are considered required for basic life. From nail clippers to birthday cake. All free. I'm still a bit on the fence about universal income, however. I do see a real achievable situation where all the mega manufacturers in the world are offered tax payment relief in the form of free, but very basic, essential products manufacture, available to anyone who wants. Products in this line are all unbranded, plain, low-resolution versions of things we need in typical society, such as cans of beans, water, bread, tampons, condoms, toothbrushes, tea, paper, etc. Yes, I also think a small dwelling should be free, too. The idea is that if anybody chooses, they can take a time out from life, temporarily or permanently, in a simple mode without insecurity. There are a lot of services I believe should be free: healthcare, dental care, mental health care, substance abuse treatment, child care, elder care, education, public transportation, adoption, and assistance finding employment and housing. However, the question is about an item, so my answers are housing and basic work / professional clothes. There are a lot of people who love to say that people living in poverty should just get a job, but guess what you need in order to get a job? An address and presentable clothing. Most people are only 1 or 2 paychecks away from losing their housing at any given time. You can do everything right and still have a catastrophic event that could lose you your housing. I know that housing and clothes aren't a magic pill cure to all poverty and unemployment. They're complex issues. However, making these resources available removes two more obstacles. An address and a clean set of clothes don't seem very important, until you don't have them. If you want people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, you have to make sure they have the boots.